Hey guys, welcome back to today's video. So today we're going to be going through the polling from Saturday, October 20th, and then Sunday, October 21st. And there is a lot of information to get here. There is a lot of polls from today, Monday, October 22nd, and I'm not covering them in this video, but I will cover them in a separate video. There is a lot, and when I say a lot, I mean a lot of information from Monday. So I had to condense this one into a separate video, and then the one on Monday. Tomorrow I will be doing an updated 2018 polling really just map based off the polling numbers. So essentially all of the current leaders in the polls right now, based off those results, what would the 2018 midterm elections look like in both the Senate and then the governor races? Because I'm not going to do each individual House race, although if I do, it could be pretty interesting. I may actually do that for a future video, just not tomorrow, considering that I typically do 1 to 2 videos a day, and I do like to separate the Senate and the governor elections. So right now we're looking at the polls from Sunday, October 21st. Let's actually start with Saturday, October 20th. We have 3 polls, 2 House races, and 1 Senate race, and we have some pretty important Senate races that we're going to actually be covering today. Florida, Missouri, and Arizona. But we start off with Arizona that shows McSally leading by 2%. It definitely matters that the New York Times did take this poll because they are one of the more reputable sources that is very, very transparent about what they do and where they're getting their information from. This is not like they intentionally skewed the data. It's just based off who answers their calls, and they do generally have a great estimate as to who would win in each individual state. Right now, McSally leads by 0.7%. If you look here, it actually has narrowed down a lot. I mean, it's gotten very close at times, and then all of a sudden, Sinema takes the lead again, and then it has narrowed down in favor of Martha McSally. She now leads by 2% in the most recent poll, but an overall average of 0.7%. In fact, the most recent poll that shows Sinema leading was plus 3%. That was taken on October 2nd to October 5th. The most recent poll now showing McSally ahead does not spell out good news for the Democratic Party. Keep in mind, this is an area that the Democrats think could be contested. The last time this race was contested in this particular Senate race was 6 years ago in 2012. Jeff Flake won by 3%. So the RCP average showed him ahead 2.5% more than what he actually won by. So if you do subtract that from McSally, technically she could lose. But again, this is still a Republican state, just it may be less of a margin in favor of the GOP, but still in favor of the GOP. Nonetheless, looking at the Florida 15th district, this is a race that is currently a tie according to the New York Times and Survey USA. Both of them show a tie. Romney won here by 5.6%. Trump won here by 10%. Still, obviously, a toss-up. And then we go over to the Pennsylvania 8th district right now. The Democrat leads by 12%, a double-digit lead in an area that went to Trump by 9.6%. But the reason behind that is because Obama won here by 11.9%. These are probably traditionally Democratic voters, just Trump was able to flip them in 2016. So that definitely makes a lot of sense. So if we're looking at the key 2018 races, PA1, PA5, PA6, PA7, PA8, PA10, PA14, PA16, PA17, whereas back in 2016 it was just PA6 and Pennsylvania 8th. That was it. So a lot more contested races in 2018, and that really does not benefit the Republicans whatsoever. But right now this is a currently held Republican district, but it was won by Trump by 9.6%, which is probably why the polling is actually pretty important when we look at that race individually. So we've covered the polls from Saturday, October 20th. We can now go into the Sunday, October 21st polls that show us the number of governor races, a couple of House races. We have a President Trump job approval rating from NBC News along with a 2018 generic congressional vote. But we're going to start off with the first Senate poll, and that is from the state of Florida. We just covered Arizona, an area where the GOP thinks that they could narrowly hold on to it. The Democrats think they could make a gain there. Same thing in the state of Florida, just flipped. The Democrats think that they can hold this seat. The GOP thinks that they can make a gain here, and with a good reason. We're looking at the polling numbers, and Nelson right now leads by 3.3%. We're actually seeing him consistently lead, and if you look at the numbers here, it has been pretty close for Bill Nelson. He has been down in a number of these polls for a pretty long time. I mean, let's see, a couple months he's been down, a few months, and then all of a sudden he starts to shoot back up, and then it narrows down again, and then all of a sudden now Nelson leads by 3.3%. This new poll comes from CNN that shows him leading by plus 5%. Obviously, that is a really good number for a Democrat in a contested race. Keep in mind, Nelson is the incumbent, so it isn't really unexpected for him to lead. But the fact that Rick Scott was leading before and now Nelson is leading by 5% is pretty considerable. But keep in mind the poll was taken by CNN, but you did just see a sneak peek of the analysis that I will be doing about the polling data from today. And you're going to see a lot of information, some that benefits the Democrats and some that benefits the GOP pretty heavily. So we've covered Florida, covered Arizona. The next Senate race that's pretty contested is the Missouri Senate race. For some reason, the Missouri Scout is probably one of the only polling companies that have recurrently come to the state of Missouri, and that's on purpose because it is the Missouri Scout. But we're seeing a lack of national attention from mainstream media in the Missouri Senate race. Usually you would see a CNN poll, NBC News poll, Fox News poll, whatever it may be. They have been very much lacking in terms of the polling data here. The last mainstream media poll was taken all the way back in September 29th to October 2nd. The only recent poll we have is from the Missouri Scout that shows Hawley leading by plus 1%. So we're really not getting an accurate indication of who's winning in this race. After the beginning, mid-August, this race has always been contested just in favor of the GOP very narrowly. There's never been a point where the GOP candidate was leading by more than 0.7%. That was the peak for the GOP candidate. So right now, actually no, Hawley did lead by 1% for, 2 days, and then went down, and then that was it. So overall, nothing higher than 0.7% for the majority of it. And then McCaskill did lead early on, but right now the most recent polls are just showing Hawley leading by narrow margins or a tie, or McCaskill plus 3 and then Hawley plus 3. So a lot of this data is either canceling itself out or a tie, or very, very close that you really can't make an accurate indication of who's truly winning. So we've covered the Arizona Senate race, we've covered the Florida Senate race, and we've covered the Missouri Senate race. Right now, all of these numbers don't necessarily benefit the Democrats. In Florida, definitely. In Arizona and Missouri, not so much. The GOP definitely benefiting by that plus 1 poll in the state of Missouri. And then also in Arizona, that plus 2 poll definitely tells them that they could be doing something right at this point in time. And if they keep the trend up, which they probably are not going to do, they could win these Senate races at the end of 2018. Considering that many of these voters are going to come back in favor of the Democratic Party leading into Election Day, I definitely do not think that these numbers are going to hold. But we can move over to the Florida governor race. Gillum leads by 12%. I don't believe that number at all. There's no way that this Democrat is leading in a state like Florida, a swing state, by 12%. So maybe at most 10%. But a 12% win and a 12% lead is not really believable at this point in time. Out of all the other polls, this race should be within 1%. Okay, we're seeing this poll coming out from tomorrow, from today. Gillum plus 7, but before it was Gillum plus 1, Gillum plus 1, Gillum plus 1, Gillum plus 9 before, but then something changed, and now Gillum leads by 12%. I'm really not trusting that number 100%. Again, the top would be plus 10% for me, but I still expect it to be a pretty close race. Keep in mind, Rick Scott is the incumbent, a GOP incumbent in a GOP state from 2016. This incumbent is approved by voters more than disapproved by 18%, running for the Senate race in a contested Senate race that is helping the GOP, and a Democrat leads by 12%. I'm really not trusting that number, and I definitely think that one is possibly skewed in favor of the Democratic Party, which is obviously not showing a true accurate indication of who is winning in the Florida governor race. In the Minnesota governor race, Tim Walz leads by plus 6%. That is more believable of a number for a governor's race here. In fact, Walz have moved this race into lean Democratic, which means over 5%, and that's what all of this data is showing. The most recent poll that shows him leading by less than 5%, 5% or less, would be the Suffolk poll that showed him leading by 5%. That was taken all the way back in August. So it really doesn't have any true substance to it. We don't really need to go all the way back there just to get the data we want. So right now, plus 6% obviously is not bad for the Democratic Party. We've covered the governor races. We covered Florida and Minnesota. And we've also covered the Senate races from Florida, Missouri, and Arizona. We've covered 2 House races, Florida's 15th district and Pennsylvania's 8th district. We now have 2 more House districts to go, Washington 3rd, Arkansas 2nd, then the POTUS Trump job approval rating, and then 2018 generic congressional vote. So Washington's 3rd district, this is a more contested race than before. If you go back to 2016, not a contested race in 2014, 12, and the last time it was contested was in 2010. In fact, we click on it and we see who won and by what margin. It was the same incumbent who won by 6%, but they were not an incumbent before, but this is a Republican wave year. Now this incumbent is leading by plus 7%. It is a lean GOP district. Romney won here by 1.7%. Trump won here by 7.4%, and a 7% margin is not too unbelievable. And right now, the Republican is leading by 7%, so exactly what Trump won by back in 2016. In Arkansas, 2nd district, this is an area that the Democrats thought they could possibly take, but right now this new data is not showing good news. With the Republican leading by plus 12%, this race probably is out of the reach for the Democratic Party at this point in time. In the President Trump job approval rating, NBC News poll shows disapprove plus 7. 45% is probably the highest that Donald Trump's approval rating has been in a while. In fact, if you look at where it is now, it's higher than it has been in I mean, again, a while. I think the cap was here 44.6%, 44.2%, but it's never been this high except for in the beginning of his administration. It was at the highest 46%. Okay, and then leading up into here, this is probably the highest that has been. So this continues an upward trend. It's not going to be helping Democrats. In fact, it will be helping the GOP. But speaking of Democrats leading, 2018 generic congressional vote, NBC News, Democrats +9. So Trump has a 45% approval rating, but Democrats are getting 50% of the vote. Something isn't either making sense or just the correlation is just not as noticeable as it was before. Democrats consistently led in every single opinion poll right now, are leading by 7.7% and by +9% in this most recent poll. So that wraps up today's video. Thank you guys for watching this video. Comment down suggestions below, and I will see you all tomorrow.